my name is Leah and I'm the silversmith behind Spirit Mountain Silver. I decided to create this channel for anyone that's interested in pursuing either a hobby or a profession in the art of silversmithing or metalsmithing. Now, silversmithing can be extremely overwhelming and extremely frustrating when you first get started. So my goal is to eliminate any frustrations or confusion or questions that you guys may find yourself having when you first are getting started out. I myself wasted a lot of money and a lot of time on expensive classes, tools that I really never used or had any need for, and supplies or materials that just weren't right for whatever project I was currently working on. So in this video, I am going to be going over the basic tools that you will need in order to get started out. These are the bare minimum absolute necessities. These are tools that I use every single day at my workbench and could not live without. Many of these tools I did purchase at my local hardware store, and I probably got them for half the price than what you'd find online at some jewelry supply company or a craft store or whatnot. I do also strongly advise against purchasing the all-encompassing Silversmithers beginner kits. These kits tend to be pretty pricey, and they include a lot of tools and supplies that you really might not need. And again, it can just be a waste of money. So I'm going to get into it. Again, I'm going over the basic tools that you will need every single day at your workbench in order to be successful in silversmithing. So this is my messy soldering station. Now it's located in a very well ventilated area. I have windows on either side that allow for constant airflow. This is very important, especially if you're going to be doing a lot of soldering work. So first off, I keep a fire extinguisher on my workbench within arm's reach. There are instructions right on the front of how to use it. However, the time to learn isn't when you have a fire currently burning in front of you, so make sure you know how to use this beforehand. Now I also have this benchtop fume extractor that I keep running at all times. There's a switch on the back to turn it on, and basically it just sucks in any hazardous odors or fumes released during the soldering process and filters them out. Very important to have. Now I also have this 3M respirator mask that I really like. It has removable filters on either side that you can replace when needed. It has a chin strap at the bottom that hooks right up and a head strap on the back. And basically I just have this on anytime I'm soldering, polishing, sanding, or whatnot, and it helps protect you from inhaling anything that you shouldn't be. Now I also have these handy dandy protective glasses or goggles. Now these glasses are also very comfortable to wear, and I like that they have a lip on the bottom and on the top. It just gives you an extra safety measure to ensure that nothing can sneak up underneath or above your glasses. Now I wear these obviously while I'm soldering or sanding, but also I make sure to have these on if I'm heating up a piece on my soldering board and placing it in my pickle pot. Sometimes the pickle acid will splash up and it can get onto your glasses, so it's very important to protect your eyes from that. Now this is just a very basic guide to the safety measures for you to take. You should always reference the warnings on all of your materials and tools, but this is a good starter. So these are my main pliers. This first pair I have are called cutting shears, and they're great for cutting through either silver sheet or silver wire when you don't want to use your jeweler's saw. And I wouldn't recommend cutting through anything thicker than 16 gauge silver sheet because you could run a risk of breaking them. Now this next pair that I have are called flat nose pliers, and they're great for ring forming and ring bending. Now you'll notice that they don't have any sharp teeth on the inside. This is very important because those little teeth will mark your silver. Now this last pair that I have are another version of a flat nose plier. However, they do have a pointed tip and again, no sharp teeth on the inside, and they're great for smaller projects like jump rings and whatnot. So these are my main hammers, mallets, and mandrels that I currently use at my workbench. This first one I want to show you is my ring sizing mandrel. You'll notice that there are small measurements on the front, and basically it just helps you determine what size ring you're working with. Now I don't use this mandrel for any hammering or ring forming because the sharp edges can mar your silver. Now the next mandrel I have is my stainless steel ring mandrel. This is the one that I do all of my hammering, ring forming, and ring bending with. It has a smooth finish and it can take a heavy blow from your hammer. So the first hammer I want to talk about is this rubber one. There is a more expensive alternative out there called a rawhide mallet. However, this one does the trick, and you just use it with your stainless steel mandrel and it helps round your ring band. Now the next hammer I have is this one, and it's just a smaller version of the one I just went over. It also has a rubber side and also a plastic side, and I use this if I want to just hammer a small section of my ring. Now my last hammer I have is this brass one, and this one is great if you want to flatten a piece of silver or if you want to add any texture to your piece. Now I also have these two stainless steel blocks that are great for doing any hammering work on. They'll take the heavy blow from all of your hammers and they have a nice smooth finish so they won't mar your silver. So these are my main jeweler saws that I currently use at my workbench. This first one I have is called the German saw frame, and this was actually the very first saw that I purchased when I first started silversmithing. Now this one is super inexpensive, and honestly it's one of my favorites. It works wonderfully. Now it's important to note that when you put your saw blade into your saw frame, the teeth have to face downwards. This just ensures you get a proper cut through your metal. Now the next saw frame I want to show you guys is this one. It's called the Green Lion saw frame. This one is much more expensive, but it does have a very comfortable handle grip and it has a wider frame, which is helpful for cutting out bigger pieces of jewelry. Now again, you'll want to make sure that you place the saw blade with the teeth facing downwards, and this really just applies to any jeweler saw that you own. Now I also have this saw blade organizer, and you'll notice that it has all the different saw blade sizes on it, along with what gauge metal you want to use with that saw blade. And you just keep all the saw blades stored in their individual compartments, just like that. And this really just helps keep everything super organized. Now I also have this lubricant. It is very important to lubricate your saw blade before you begin sawing. If you do not lubricate it, you will run the risk of breaking a saw blade because the teeth will get stuck in your metal. So all you really have to do is just take the saw blade and run it right through the lubricant just like that, and you are set and ready to go. Now I also have this leather conditioner, and it's beeswax based, and it works wonderfully as well as a lubricant, so you can use something just like that as well to lubricate your blades. So this is my wooden V-top bench pin, and this tool is absolutely crucial to have if you plan to be using a jeweler's saw. This is where you're going to be doing all of your sawing work, and it really just makes your life so much easier. You will 100% need to have one of these at your workbench. So the first thing I want to talk about is my Solderite soldering board. This is where I do all of my soldering work. It has excellent heat reflectivity and it cools down very quickly. I highly recommend getting one of these. Now over here you'll see I have a variety of tweezers. This first pair I want to show you are my stainless steel third hand tweezers, and these work great for any time you are soldering and you need an extra hand to hold the piece in place. Now these are just my stainless steel tweezers, and I use these for picking up small decorative elements and components. And this pair I have are again stainless steel third hand tweezers. However, these ones have a paper clip at the base, and they work really well for holding ring bands in place while soldering to their back plate. Now this last pair I have are my copper tweezers, and these ones are the most important. These are the tweezers you will use anytime you're taking something in and out of your pickle pot and putting it into your neutralizing bath. The other tweezers, the stainless steel ones, will cause a chemical reaction with your pickling acid, so you must use these copper tweezers anytime you are working with your pickle pot. Now I also keep a couple of soldering picks on hand, and these are great for adjusting either your solder chip or decorative elements in the middle of soldering. Now these are my paint brushes, and I have them in a variety of shapes and sizes, and I use these to apply my flux to my piece before soldering. So the first torch I want to talk about is this one. This is a butane torch, and it's my bigger, more powerful one, and it's great for any larger soldering projects. Now this little one is great for any smaller, more delicate soldering, whether it's bezel work or jump rings and chain links and whatnot, as it does not give off as much heat. And over here you'll see I have a variety of solder, and I keep them stored in these little containers that are labeled based off of the solder that's inside. That one is medium, that's easy, and of course this one is hard solder. And inside you'll see I have a bunch of little solder chips, both wire and sheet, cut up into tiny little pieces. Now this is the flux that I use. It's called Handy Flux, and all you have to do is apply a little bit of water to give it a little creamier consistency, and use your paintbrush to paint it onto your piece before you begin soldering. Now lastly, this is my pickle pot, and in my pickle pot there is water mixed with a pickling acid, and this is where you'll put your piece after you solder and need to remove any fire, scale, or stain. This is the pickling acid that I use, and I basically just sprinkle a little bit into my water once my pickle pot is heated up. Now once you place something into your pickle pot, you then need to put it into a neutralizing bath, and in that bath I just have some water mixed with baking soda. So this is my rotary tool, and it's how I do the majority of my polishing. It's the Dremel 4000, and it's one of my favorite tools that I own. You'll notice that there's a little switch on the back to turn it on and off, and a dial at the bottom where you can adjust the speed when necessary. Now it also has this flex shaft handpiece, and this handpiece makes your life so much easier in polishing. It's lightweight and easy to hold, and has a quick release button where you can change out the bits when necessary. Now I also have a very large variety of different bits that I use with this Dremel. I have the 3M radial discs in various grits. I also have these silicone polishing wheels, which are great for cleaning up the bezel. And then I also have these sanding discs, which are great for cleaning up any excess silver around your back plate. So if you don't have access to a Dremel, there are other tools and methods you can use in order to polish your piece. However, these will take a bit longer than if you were to use a rotary tool. So the first things I want to show you are my files, and these are great for any time you need to clean up excess solder or remove any scratches or scrapes in your metal. They also are very helpful if you need to flatten the two ends of a piece before soldering the two ends together. Now I also have a handful of needle files, and these work wonderfully for any time you need to get into any close crevices or corners and shape and file around decorative elements. They come in a variety of different shapes and sizes depending on your need. And lastly, I have a whole bunch of different sanding papers and various grits, and these are great for cleaning up any excess solder or removing any marks or scrapes in your silver. These are the three main stone setting tools that I use. The first one I want to show you is the steel bezel roller. This is the first one I use in the stone setting process. And all you want to do is use this rocking motion to gently push the bezel against the stone. And this is my steel pusher. This one you'll notice has a square tip and it works great for getting into any tight corners. All you want to do is just gently press it against your bezel in this rocking motion, but be sure to not let it slip because those sharp corners can scrape your stone. And lastly, I have my burnisher. This is the last tool I use in the stone setting process. You'll notice it also has a pointed tip, so it works great for getting into any tight corners. And all you do is just rub the burnisher against your bezel, and it gives your bezel a nice high shine.